I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and this is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm taking the taboos of menopause and peri-menopause and bringing light to the dark. No bullshit, no shame. It's time for us to gain a new paradigm in female health, out with the old and in with the new, and I'm bringing fresh perspectives from someone in the arena. I've been practicing women's health for nearly 20 years, and I'm spilling the tea on what it means to live at midlife, knowing that the best is yet to come. I'm sharing my Gen X approach to living through this transition. Sassy, a bit sweary, and always honest. Tactical tips and instantly usable information is my aim. I hope to make you laugh and that you learn something new that helps you embrace the change. Together, we bring power to the peri. Onward to the podcast. Welcome back to the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Fiona Lovely, and I have to tell you, today's episode is one I've been anticipating for quite a while. It's been on the books for about 6 months. I knew it was coming, and it did not disappoint. You may remember my guest from the summer of 2024. She is a nurse practitioner, a PhD, a women's health advocate, a clinician, and one of the sharpest, most passionate voices in this menopause space. Tammy O'Rourke is back, and she is here to share something deeply personal, a health journey that was quietly, terrifyingly already unfolding in the months after we last sat down together. Here's what I want you to know before we get into this conversation. In the time since Tammy and I last spoke, she was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer. At the time, she was 54 years old, and what followed was a masterclass in self-advocacy and what it looks like to refuse to accept "not yet" as an answer when your life is on the line. Tammy and her husband drove 18 hours from her home to Baltimore, Maryland, to see a world-renowned surgeon, Dr. Sardi at Mercy Medical Center, who specializes in a procedure called CRS HIPEC. That is cytoreductive surgery combined with heated chemotherapy delivered directly into the abdomen. It is, and I want you to hear this, it's referred to as the mother of all surgeries. Tammy's operative report is 11 pages long. The surgery took 12 hours, and it saved her life. In this episode, we get into all of it. The symptoms that were easy to explain away, the bloating, the fatigue, the reflux. It turned out to be ovarian cancer quietly seeding through her abdomen. The sobering reality is that ovarian cancer has no routine screening tool, no blood test that's regularly ordered, no pap smear equivalent. The CA-125 marker, a serum screening tool for ovarian cancer that frankly isn't ordered nearly often enough, which in Tammy's case wasn't run until after her diagnosis, and by the way, came back over 70 times higher than normal. Ask your doctor for the CA-125. If you're over the age of 40, should be done routinely. We talk about the connection between endometriosis, fibroids, and dramatically elevated ovarian cancer risk, information that affects so many of the women in our community. We talk about what self-advocacy actually looks like when you're scared, when the answers aren't coming fast enough, and when you have to be the one driving the process forward. And we talk about what Tammy would tell every woman she knows right now. Now, I want to say this ultimately is a conversation about how the Canadian healthcare system failed Tammy and likely is failing thousands of other people every year. And what can we do about it? Universal healthcare is a beautiful thing, but we're under-resourced, we're understaffed. So what can we do about it? And the flip side is, in the United States, there are great practitioners available, but many die because they can't afford the care that they need. Tammy and I talk about that too. This conversation is raw and it's real. It's enraging in places and deeply hopeful in others. Tammy's here. She's ready to share every hard-won piece of wisdom from this journey. And let me introduce her properly, please. Dr. Tammy O'Rourke is a nurse practitioner with her PhD. She spent the first 20 years of her nurse practitioner career in primary care. However, in 2019, she moved into regenerative medicine, and in early 2021, she completed her first hormone certification course in the United States through WorldLink Medical. Since that time, she has been helping many Canadian men and women rebalance their hormones so they can find joy in their lives again. She holds active nurse practitioner registration in 4 provinces and speaks nationally and internationally on the topic of healthy aging. Her first book is on the way. It's called Tammy Talks Hormones, and it will be released in the fall of 2026. You can find out more about Tammy O'Rourke on her website, happyhormonescanada.ca, and all of her other links will be in the show notes. This is a juicy one, kids, so can't wait to hear your feedback on this. I sure hope it's as helpful. I hope this conversation will save lives. Thanks for listening. As we move through menopause, it's no secret that our bodies change. As women, we are navigating the ups and downs that come with aging, especially when it comes to hormones. That's why I'm really excited to share something with you that's been a game changer for me. I've been using the bioidentical hormone creams from Hormone Solutions by Karen Martell, and they are fantastic. They are clean, over the counter, and contain USP grade hormones, which means they are high quality and effective without any harmful ingredients. The best part, you don't need a prescription to get them. Karen's creams are designed to help with the symptoms of peri and post-menopause, and I have noticed a real difference in how I feel using them. The Estro 2 Rejuvenation Cream in particular has been amazing for my skin. Not only does it help with the hormonal chaos of menopause, I've been using it as a face cream too. Research shows that estrogen on the skin can reduce fine lines, shrink pores, and even helps to build collagen. It's like a mini facelift in a bottle, and it's an affordable way to support your skin as you age. Karen's products will help you reclaim control over your body and help you look great. We deserve to feel good as we age. If you're ready to take back control and feel your best, I highly recommend trying Karen's creams. They come with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's nothing to lose. You can even take 10% off your first purchase with the code LOVELY. Please go to karenmartell.com/shop/ to learn more and make your first order. Of course, as always, I will leave the links in the show notes. Thanks, Karen. Guys, I have a real special guest with me today. She's been on the show before. Nurse practitioner, PhD, Tammy O'Rourke is here to share a very personal story of her own health journey recently, which will literally blow your socks off. So, Tammy, first of all, welcome back to the show. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lovely, for having me. I'm very grateful to be here today.
Yeah, I bet you are. And that will make
Yes.
far more sense to the listeners here shortly. Before we get into your story, I have to ask you, from one women's health practitioner to another, did you ever think we would see the FDA drop the black box warning on
Oh,
estrogen?
that was such a surprise, a fantastic surprise, right? But
Yes.
I have to be very, appreciative to what I see is happening in the US in terms of women's health and their focus on health instead of illness, right?
Mhm.
Living in a Canadian system, the focus is always on illness, but they're opening the doors so that women have access to the products that they need. So I think it's a huge step forward. And even though many may not like the politics that are emerging right now in the US, the way that their health system is transforming with the peptides, the
I
access
know.
access to vaginal estrogen, which will save millions of women from suffering and billions of dollars. Like this is a real cost savings when you focus on
Absolutely.
health and not on illness.
Absolutely. It comes down to that whole prevention. If we can get to that point first, that's what ultimately those of us that are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, that's what we want for the women in our practices, in our world, in our lives, etc. Okay, Tammy, you were last on the show in summer of
Mhm.
2024. And you
Wow.
told, I know, right? Like, do you feel like there's been a bit of a road since then? I feel
Oh,
profoundly changed, but nothing beats your story. We'll get there. But you're one of my favorite conversations that year for sure. And I remember so well the story you told about the doctors in Ontario putting out an ad in the newspaper about,
yes,
you know what I'm talking about? Can you share that
I
story
do.
again, please? Can we start there?
Sure, sure. Because it's so profound.
Mhm.
Right? And the political cycle in health continues here. I have a news story for you actually about nurse practitioners and physicians, but the nurse practitioner led clinics where
Mhm.
nurse practitioners are the lead for the team and they're the most responsible provider for the patient in Ontario. I was lead at one of those clinics many moons ago. They've been operational now I think 13, 14 years. But so 13, 14 years ago, when the decision was made for Ontario as a province, as a jurisdictional decision to fund nurse practitioner led clinics, was made without input from the physicians. And the physicians were very upset that nurse practitioners would have their own model of care and take leadership and take responsibility for patients in that province. So they actually took an ad in a large newspaper that went national and said that if the pilot was unavailable, would you let the stewardess fly the plane? And they were speaking
Oh,
about physician versus nurse practitioner roles. So you can
wow.
imagine how insulting that would be for their female counterparts, or mostly female counterparts, because
Mhm,
95% of nurse practitioners are females,
mhm,
and physician leadership in Canada is still predominantly males.
mhm,
Even though we have a 50-50 split now of females and male doctors, the leadership can be quite patriarchal
mhm,
still.
mhm.
So since that time, nurse practitioners have, continued to flourish, but we've had issues with, acceptable funding models and compensation models in Canada. We still do. So nurse practitioners evolved and they developed their own private pay model. So patients can see a nurse practitioner if they private pay because there's no fee for service model for them. They're only salaried, and typically they're salaried within a physician led clinic where the physician leads the decisions or makes the decisions about what the nurse practitioner's practice will be. And often they're doing pap smears. They're doing things that registered nurses can do. They're not taking on a full panel. So a physician in Ontario was like, huh, how come NPs can bill private pay, right?
Mhm,
Physicians can't bill private pay. So he went to the national government and
mhm.
advised them that they should make this illegal,
Oh,
that nurse practitioners shouldn't be allowed to private pay,
yeah.
that they should have a fee for service model. So that's supposed to be enacted next month, Fiona. And
No.
it all come out of this. Like, why would you want to further decrease access? If a patient can
E-
pay for a service,
exactly.
why not let
Yeah.
them? Right? And
Like,
this is what it
sir,
all
sit the
revolves
hell
around,
down. Yes.
right?
Sit
Like, just
down.
sit down. What are you talking about? Like, we don't have enough services in our country as it is to
As it
service
is.
people. And now you want to
Yeah.
shut down paying people
Yeah.
who have
Yeah.
found another way to get service. And this is
And paying
exactly what
women.
I encountered, right? And
Yeah.
women.
Yes.
Why
Paying
are they
women what we're
continuing to
worth.
shut them?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, as we've talked about on the previous episode of the show, and we will link the previous episode in the show notes for you to listen, is that Tammy and I talked about how a nurse practitioner can be your best advocate in menopause and for perimenopausal care, and menopausal care, and that's been my experience. My nurse practitioner takes better care of me than I've ever been cared for in my life, and I like my GP a lot. She's great, but nurse practitioner, which I am in Alberta, so I can pay for that service, and I do pay for that service. Both my husband and I do. And I've had, oh, many, many, many patients that I have referred to the nurse practitioners in my community for that service because the physicians just are not cutting it when it comes to appropriate and contemporary HRT practices, prescription practices, etc. And so I am very much an advocate for nurse practitioners. And I have to say that story still blows my mind. Oh my God. The
Yes,
flight
Fiona.
attendant.
A flight attendant. Why
God.
would you try to compare a pilot to a flight attendant?
Yeah.
Like, personally, it's very offensive. We decided to say silent at the time because nurse practitioners didn't want to get in a public fight, right?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
it,
Take the
they
high
they
road.
were forced to remove it because other people took up the plight, like and Andre Picard, a famous journalist in our
Mhm,
country, he
mhm.
took up the plight and said, "This is guerrilla warfare. Why would physicians even say that about their nurse
Rude.
practitioner counterparts?"
Well, not to mention it's insulting flight attendants too. So as far as I'm concerned, are mostly women and also highly educated and trained at
Trained
their
and
jobs.
educated, right? Who's the one
Yes,
that's going to help you if the plane is going down? It's not the
exactly.
pilot.
It's not the
It's the
pilot.
flight attendant.
So offensive in so many ways. Anyways,
Oh,
thank you for reliving that moment for us. So, you have been on quite a health journey since we last sat and talked. And as it turns out from the history that you shared with me recently in preparation for this interview, things were already brewing when we were talking in the summer of 2024. So, Tammy, let me hand you the floor, sister. What do you want to share about what's happened in your life since we last spoke?
there's so much, Fiona. There's so much to share. And you're right, they were brewing in the summer of 2024, and I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea because the January before, January 2024, I had had a CT scan that I paid for in Alberta when I was out there in a meeting to
Mhm.
check on my fibroids in my uterus because I have 5 of them. And this CAT scan was negative, right?
Okay.
So, one of the things I want to express to women is that ovarian cancer is very deceptive. It doesn't present itself as right in the face of you, right? And there's no screening for it. There's no pap smear, there's no mammogram, there's nothing that we can do, to take a blood sample, unless we do an ultrasound, right? And of course, in Canada, you're not getting routine ultrasounds for screening. Although, maybe that's the next step we should look at advocating for in women's health for ovarian cancer. Why can't we use ultrasound for screening, right? That year, I had been experiencing some symptoms like bloating, right? After meals, I would get bloated and it was very uncomfortable. And I had increased reflux, but I didn't really have any pain until later in the year, until I went to my physician in late October, November. But I had already been waiting 2.5 years in Nova Scotia for a hysterectomy
Because of the fibroids.
because the fibroids.
Okay. Okay.
No gynecologist ever called me in those 2.5 years, even though my doctor had made a referral to a surgeon for a hysterectomy. 2.5 years, still waiting, no call, asking my family doc, what's up with my referral? What's up with my surgery? Right. So I had lived in Alberta previously, and my surgeon out there had called after I had moved here and said, "Tammy, come in. I can do your surgery." I said, "Well, I'm in Nova Scotia now, right? I'm sure I'll get surgery, right? I'm sure I'll get surgery." Right. I kept asking my family doc, "Well, these things take time." Had I had that surgery, Fiona,
Yep.
I wouldn't have developed stage 3C ovarian cancer.
Oh, hell, Tammy, my God.
2.5
Okay.
years, Fiona. I was on a list
Wow.
for a gynecologist,
Oh my God.
right?
Terrible.
Like that just
Terrible.
blows my mind that this could have all been avoided with the simple procedure of a hysterectomy. Because as you said, you looked at my surgical notes. The procedure
Yes.
was 12 hours, very in depth, the CRS with the
Extensive.
HIPEC, and I'll explain what that is. So when I went to my doctor in October, November, I relayed my symptoms to her. She did a abdominal exam and felt my belly, and it was very tender at the time. I said, "Yeah." I said, "You know what? I think I'm sick." I was
Mm.
tired, but I'm really busy. And I thought, "Oh, it's just my schedule. I'm busy. Like I'm in clinic. I'm at the university, and I'm just tired, right?" And in December, I actually had like sort of a mental breakdown. Like I was just my anxiety was so high, like, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not absorbing my pills because I was on oral estrogen at the time. I said, I'm not absorbing my pills. So I got in touch with my provider in Alberta, and we went forward with switching to a cream, and things sort of calmed down. In December, I also had a gastroscopy where they looked down into your stomach, and they said, oh, you have a hiatal hernia and you've got some Barrett's esophagus, so inflammation on my esophagus, right?
Mhm.
And I said, oh, that's what my symptoms are from. And so she had ordered an urgent ultrasound the end of October, 1st to November. By the end of January, still waiting for an urgent ultrasound.
Wow.
So we're in Ontario. I'm actually there on business. And my husband said, just get one of your colleagues to write the rec. We'll pay for an ultrasound here. So 2 days later, I had an appointment. Thursday, I asked a colleague, Jennifer, to write the ultrasound rec. She did. And I called the ultrasound place. They said, can you be here Saturday morning? I said, yeah, I'll be there
No
Saturday
problem.
morning, 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Thursday. Yeah, for sure. So I went in, and they actually billed that fee back to Nova Scotia, right?
Okay.
So I didn't have to
Yeah.
pay for it.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I went out with my husband for the day. We went to a nice restaurant in the morning, and we were at the bar in the afternoon because football season, right? So
Oh yeah.
I think it was, we were in the playoffs or something. We were in not the Super Bowl, but playoffs. So we went to a sports bar and we had dinner and we had drinks. And I said, I'm not going to look at my results until the morning, because in Ontario, they just send you your results via email. Where do you want these results sent? They send it to my provider and they send it to me. That's being in control of your own health information, right?
Absolutely.
That's the way
Yeah.
that it should be, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be waiting
Mm-mm.
endless weeks for a provider to tell you what the results are. You should have access to them, bar none. So I knew that it was in there, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to look till tomorrow morning. I said, I want one more day of normalcy. I just want to be happy and stress free, because I figured something was
Me
wrong.
too. Yeah.
And sure enough, I looked at the ultrasound the next morning, and I still remember it so vividly, telling my husband, I said, there's a huge mass on my ovary and
Mm.
there's fluid in my belly, which is called ascites. I said, this is not good. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a long period of time, I thought one of my ovaries had been removed when they removed an endometrioma. It turns out I still had two ovaries.
Oh wow.
So I had always reported, when I went for diagnostics of any kind, CT, ultrasound, I said, yeah, one of my ovaries has been removed. And nobody ever commented that I still had an ovary over all of those years, like 17 years. No tech ever commented that, oh no, your other ovary's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of shocked about that nobody ever commented, nobody ever looked. And so I said, we got to go home. So we were going home the next day. We went home the next day, and we were kind of like gobsmacked, right? What are we going to do? We're going back to Nova Scotia. So we came home, and I just kept getting more sick. Like my belly, the ascites, the fluid in my belly was building
Mm-hmm.
up. And, I was starting to have symptoms like constipation and more pain. So my husband said, let's go back to the mainland. Let's go back to Halifax, and we'll go to the emergency room. This is where my journey of trauma begins.
Oh God. Okay. Yep. 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 Go
So
on.
went
Yep.
to the emergency room, and I was
Mm.
triaged. So in the emergency room, there are little nurse stations with just like plastic between them because they're doing renovations or something at the emergency room. There's absolutely no privacy in this emergency room. There's four nurses taking stories from different patients. I get called up to give my story. Everyone can hear my story because I'm not in private. This is not confidential. So that's my first concern. They didn't take my vital signs, right? I know.
Okay.
Another shock,
Mhm.
right? My husband asked about private care. He said, is there anywhere we can go? Like, do you know anywhere we can get gynecological care? We want to pay. We can pay. We want to pay, right? And she said, well, I don't know any place that offers private care in Halifax. Like, kind of snooty, right? And then puts me in the emergency room waiting with all sorts of individuals. The emergency room is full. So a paramedic comes around about 2 or 3 hours later, and I see people going in. I'm waiting, and she checks my blood pressure. So we told her nobody ever checked her vital signs. My blood pressure's sky high, like through the roof. She goes, okay, I'm going to triage you at a 2 instead of a 3. So there's a CTAS screening, right? 1 to
Yep.
5. 5 is non-emergent, 1 is life-threatening. I'm triaged as a 2, right?
Okay.
9 hours go by.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
else who came in is gone in to see the doctor. And we said to them, why have I not gone to see the doctor? I'm a triage as a 2. All of the 5s had went in, all of the 4s, like colds, things that were simple. They said, well, we don't have a bed to put you in.
Oh,
I'm like, I don't think that's the purpose of the C-test system, is whether or not you have a bed. It's whether or not I get to see a physician or a nurse practitioner in a reasonable amount of time.
yeah.
Just because you don't have a bed or a room to put me in doesn't mean I should wait, because these
Yes.
people are going in and taking a seat somewhere to see a doctor. Like the critical thinking has totally exited our system as far as I'm concerned.
Yikes. No
So
kidding.
then I do get to see the doctor, and we give her the ultrasound, we tell her the story, and she said, well, how's your bowels been moving? And I said, well, not very good. It's been a couple of days since I had a bowel movement. I said, but you can see I have ascites fluid in my stomach. I was hoping that she'd take some off. And she goes, well, there's lots of people waiting for cancer care. I
The
said, oh,
apathy.
okay.
The
She goes, well,
apathy.
since your bowels aren't moving, I could see to your bowel, but I'm not going to see to the rest of your abdomen. And I said, well, you think you could take some of the fluid off of my abdomen? She goes, yeah, I could, but then I'd have to follow up on it. And she said, you need a gynecologist. I said, yeah, I've been waiting for a gynecologist for 2.5 years to take my fibroids out. Do you think I'm going to get any, I said, my family doc's already aware, right? I'm in discomfort. So so we go home. My husband said, there's no help for us here. We go home. And I'm waiting for the urgent CT scan in Halifax. So they call and they say the earliest we can get you in is 5 weeks from now. My cancer has progressed significantly in a small amount of time. It's growing faster and faster. Husband said, no, we're not waiting 5 weeks. We get on a plane, we go to Alberta, we pay for a CT scan. In the same country, different provinces. I can pay for a CT scan in Alberta. I can't here. So we go out and we get the CT scan results the same day.
Okay.
Same day.
Okay.
And it says that it's all through my abdomen. There's I have 2 large masses, I have a lot of ascites, and the ovarian cancer, what it does is the cells break off and then they go into your omentum, like the fatty layer of your belly and the peritoneal lining of your belly. So all of the lining. So they're talking about, it being quite progressive. Like, what are we going to do? So my husband finds a medical consulting firm in Toronto. He said there has to be another option for us. He calls the medical consulting firm in Toronto, and I'm sure they have them in the US too, or all over the world, really. And a medical consultant, a private medical consultant that we paid for, was able to say, there's other options for you. Like, there's options for you, right? Because we thought, oh no, right? Even to back up before that, being in Alberta, I have colleagues out there. So they got me hooked up with the Cross Cancer Institute, who was going to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, you don't live in Nova Scotia anymore. You got to go back to Nova Scotia.
Shit.
So they dropped me. So it's not transportable. You can't just go anywhere in Canada and get care. They said, yeah, get on a plane, go back to Nova Scotia. Basically, we won't take you here. You need to get your cancer care in Nova Scotia.
You're like,
Because
I'm
my son still
trying.
lives there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son still lives there. So I was,
Okay.
yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to get cancer care.
Yeah.
So we come back, we hired this medical consultant because we're still waiting for a call from a gynecologist oncology in Nova Scotia. And this is a fairly short period of time. I'm going to say probably, 2 weeks, right? We're just jumping on things, right? You got to advocate for your own health, Fiona. As a woman,
Yes.
nobody's going to
Absolutely.
take care of you. Even though you've taken care of people your whole life. I've been in healthcare in 30 years. Nobody's willing to take care of me. Nobody's willing to take care of me. How ethically, morally distressing is that for me? I can tell you I was already traumatized. And that's just the beginning of the trauma.
Yes.
So we talked to Dr. Rupert from this medical consulting firm, who was a godsend, worth its weight in gold. He would call us and he'd say, listen, it's okay. We're going to take care of it. There's other options for you. Keep me up to date. Tell me what's going on. And by the time we got home on the Sunday, we still had our bags packed. We still had our suitcase packed. Dr. Rupert had set me up with a specialist in the US who specializes in CRS HIPEC, which is what I knew I needed, because Dr. Raymond had already talked to an oncologist in Calgary who said, yeah, she needs chemotherapy and CRS HIPEC, cytoreduction surgery, and potentially HIPEC, which is heated chemo in my belly.
And was that
So we
because it
talked.
was so advanced at that point? Is that why?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can't take it. You can't take it out. That's the problem with advanced ovarian cancer, and that's why many women die or have a very low prognosis. So because the seeded spread is so diffuse,
Mm-hmm.
it's all over the belly. So basically, you can't go in and just take out the tumors. when you take out the tumors and it's already spread to the peritoneum and the omentum, most cytoreductive surgeries in the US, or just pure cytoreductive surgery for ovarian cancer, when it's spread, only gets about 10 to 25% of the cancer. So
So
that's
you
why there's
needed very specific kind of surgery and then a chemotherapy treatment that was part of the surgery. That's the HIPEC part, which I read is like a hot chemo wash.
It is 42 degrees. They heat the chemotherapy to 42 degrees after they've taken out all the bits and pieces that they can. So I've probably already been on the table for 10 hours now,
Yeah.
with my surgeon doing his work, Dr. Sardi, Baltimore at the Mercy in Maryland. And I can tell you, he's the best doctor I've ever met in my over 30 years as a nurse
That's a big
practitioner.
deal. That's a big deal.
Best
That's a big
doctor I've
deal.
ever met.
Yeah.
That's the title I give him. And then so after they take all the bits and pieces, you have to imagine what patience that requires, right?
Yeah.
They look through all my bowel because it's all on the tops of my bowel, but it was nowhere internal yet. It hadn't spread to my liver or kidneys, that they were all safe. But had we not jumped on it so quickly, that may not have been the outcome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So talk to Dr. Sardi. He said, when can you be there? My husband said, we can be there tomorrow. He goes, where do you live? We told him where we lived. He goes, how long drive is that? My husband said 18 hours. I'll have her there tomorrow. So we get back in the car. Suitcase isn't even unpacked yet. We get in the car and we head to Baltimore. See Dr. Sardi the next day at 3 p.m. And him and his team spend an hour and a half with me.
Wow.
He said, okay, we're going to do the laparoscopy. This is Wednesday. He said, we're going to do the laparoscopy Monday. We're going to go in. We're going to take some samples. If I think I can do the HIPEC, we'll do it March 13th. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So the weekend we were down there from the Wednesday to the Monday was Super Bowl weekend. So I remember the dates. It was early February.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And, we celebrated in our room because I wasn't feeling great.
Yeah.
But then, so Monday we did the laparoscopy and he said, if it's too advanced, right, I won't be able to do the HIPEC March 13th. We'll have to get some chemo done first to reduce the tumor load and to reduce some of the lesions, because he won't do surgery unless he knows he can get it off,
Okay.
right? He's not experimenting. He's been doing this for 30 years, so he knows his stuff. And he said, if you can't have surgery on the 13th, I'll put in a port for you. So a port is something you can receive chemotherapy through without, having to put IVs in. He said, I'll put a port in so that at least, when you're getting your chemo, you'll have vascular access or access to your blood veins so that we can do it easily. So I knew when I woke up that I would either have a port or I was either going to go to surgery on the 13th with the HIPEC.
Yeah.
And I told the anesthesiologist before I went under, she asked me, she said, what's your biggest fear? And I said, that's my biggest fear, waking up with a port. Right? Because then I knew it was too progressive to do the surgery right away. She was standing at my bedside. She was the first person I saw when I woke up. She goes, Tammy, I wanted to be here because you have a port.
Mhm. Thank God for her. She knew to be there for you. Thank God for her.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the kind of care you don't get in this country, though.
No. Okay. So
Unfortunately, right?
yeah, well, absolutely. And okay, if you said the surgeon has done this surgery for 30 years, why is there not more access to this surgery?
Absolutely. So they say, oh, there's not enough evidence, not enough evidence. So he's released studies, other people have released studies. Canada said they're going to study it when I was looking into it. I don't think we need to study it. We have international outcomes that prove differently. Germany is doing this surgery as well.
Okay.
And many institutions in the US are doing this surgery. And my surgeon told me when I was down there that Medicare will now cover this surgery because there's enough evidence to suggest it's life-saving. And one of his initial comments to me when I was in the hospital for the CRS HIPEC, he said, why is Canada letting women die from ovarian cancer?
Wait, he
He
said it
said,
just like that?
that's what he said. He said, you're a first world country. I see Canadians all the time down here to get this procedure. He said, why is Canada
Why?
letting women die with this
Why
disease?
indeed?
It's curable. Like
Why
we can
indeed?
do this. Like we can save you, right?
Wow. Well, thank God you had a pathway to him.
Right? Because in Canada, I didn't have any access to it. So was I able to and willing to pay for it? Yes. Should I be able to access through a system to save my life? Yes,
Yeah.
there's nothing ethically, morally wrong with that. I worked my whole career to save that money. Like
Hmm.
I worked hard. I have
Hmm.
that money. Why would
Hmm.
I leave it on the table if this procedure can save my life?
Yes,
Like, to
absolutely.
me, that's ridiculous now. Why aren't we allowed to have access to services that can save our life if we have the money? It's not like, I took that money from someone, or it's not
Yeah.
like the government gave me that money. I worked for that money.
Yeah, you did. Of course you did. And you also paid tax dollars into a system where we were
To a
told
system.
we had universal health care and healthcare failed you.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, Fiona, I
Sure.
paid over my career.
Me
So
too.
my husband, he's like a dog with a bone, right? And he's like, I wonder how much of our tax dollars goes to healthcare. 28 point something percent of every tax dollar, whether it's
Goes to healthcare.
HST, personal income tax, property tax, tax on gas, tax on liquor, we're taxed to death here. 28% of all that money goes to healthcare.
Wow.
Do you know that Ontario, one jurisdiction, one province, equatable to one state, spends $86 billion a year on healthcare?
Yeah.
One jurisdiction. That's the third largest bank, RBC. That's their profit for 1 year.
Wow.
$86 billion, and we still
That's
can't get care.
no,
There's
I we still
something
can't get.
incredibly wrong with this system. So
Well,
that's the big message here. Anybody who
yeah.
thinks Canada has a great system, forget about it. It's not happening here for us.
Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of a story that I think we should talk about here. My husband had, since I last talked to you, it's been a journey for us too. My husband had a heart attack and bypass surgery at 51. Okay.
Wow.
Now, they opted for bypass surgery because he's diabetic and he's otherwise young. And they said, stents will not last long enough. We want you to have a quality of life. There was no issue with access to care. In fact, upside down, backwards, amazing nurses, amazing surgeons, fantastic supportive care. Was the hospital he stayed in a piece of shit? Absolutely, it was. It desperately needed to be updated. However, was the care extraordinary? Yes. Now, I brought this up with a girlfriend of mine who happens to practice maternal medicine in Victoria and in the province of BC, for those of you listening that are not familiar with Canada's geography. And she said, Fiona, of course, what's better funded in medicine than the wealthy, white, old guy disease of heart disease? And it was shocking to see it, right? So, how much, Tammy, do you think the inattention to women's diseases is to blame here? The paternalism of the
Oh,
system.
100%, Fiona. And I'll tell you, because I have a similar story for my husband. Okay. This is what happened to my husband. He had to wait and emerge. He'd been sick for 3 days, couldn't keep anything down, right? And we went to emerge and he was waiting and waiting and he started bleeding, right? Rectally.
Mm,
And so I was pushing for him to get in. So they finally take
things
him
move
in and they said,
fast.
listen, we
Yeah.
want to see a doctor, right? And sure enough, doctor comes in. Oh, wow, your CRP is really high. That's an inflammatory marker in your blood. We better get a CAT scan. CAT
Jesus.
scan that day, Fiona. CT scan that
Wow.
day.
Wow.
And then he says, oh, you have inflammation. You better have a colonoscopy. 2 weeks later, he had his surgical procedure for a colonoscopy. That's not even his heart. That's him as a white male and the doctor being a white male.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I have come to recognize, Tammy, I'm a chiropractor, so I see musculoskeletal concerns, right? This gap of attention in women's issues even shows up in things like I had a patient say to me a few weeks ago, what are the options for me with plantar fasciitis, which of course is one of those things that shows up in the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause for women. And I said, there's shit. There's nothing. Have I ever seen a dude with plantar fasciitis? Not once in 20 plus years of practice.
Right?
Okay. So I said, your doctor will tell you that a cortisone shot is an option. It might be an option for a time or two after that, but what are you exchanging for long term? And I remember sitting there that afternoon and thinking, what the actual fuck is going on here? I am so sick and I mean, you've got the mother of all stories, an example of this, but like this trickles all the way down to the foot, basically. This whole, so how, okay. I know the question I want to say is like, how do we start to change it? Is it our job to change it? I think actually the more important thing for us at this point is to say, for the women who are listening, be aware that this is the whole entire background, foundation, lens with which medicine sees women and women's bodies after reproduction. If it's a reproductive issue, we're fine. It's covered, right? Because the guy's got to have their offspring. But if it's after menopause, forget it. There's almost no research dollars going to this. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Please, Tammy, carry on.
No, it's fine. So during the time that I had talked to Dr. Sardi, we were on our way to Baltimore, the oncologist here had called and said, yeah, we'll be able to see you Friday. And I knew I'd be in the US on Friday, right? So I called and left a message saying I'd really like to do the call with my oncologist here virtually. I'd left a message with Gyn-Oncology, the department. So the department head, Dr. Scott, calls me. And I'm calling out names here because I hope they hear them. I hope they hear their names somehow, or somebody else that knows them hears their names, so they know how traumatic this was. She calls me and she said, yeah, you want to have a virtual visit? I said, yeah, we're on our way to Baltimore. I'm seeing the surgeon down there for CRS HIPEC. She says, oh. I said, yeah, I want to have collaborative care, right? Because I know I'll be back here. I'll need follow-up, whatever the case may be. I said, so I'd still like to do a virtual phone call with the gynecologist you've assigned to me here. She said, well, you're going to the US. When you come back, you're going to need a new referral.
Oh, please. Did you come unhinged at that point? I think I would have.
At that point, I'm like, oh, for goodness sakes, what is going on here? I'm like, this is not happening. I have to be I'm in the twilight zone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I must be in the twilight zone, right?
Yeah.
So of course we're devastated, but we're going to see Dr. Sardi. So it's like, well, whatever is currently, we can't worry about it. And then, I go down to see Dr. Sardi and I have the port, and he said, you got to go back to Canada for chemo. He said, you should have it in a week. I'm like, oh, Dr. Sardi, you're so, naive. I'm not going to have it in a week, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this cancer is still growing in me. That's the other thing, Fiona. The longer you wait and the more you know this cancer could kill you. Like, this could kill me.
Yes.
Right?
In a matter of days.
Staph cell tumor, it's everywhere. So I was scared. I was very, very scared. And I could find no help in my own country. So we come back and we get an oncology appointment, I think the week later, like in office in Halifax. Well, you'll have to drive to Halifax. I'm like, we just drove 18 hours to see a surgeon. 4 hours is not. Yeah, we'll go anywhere in the province. We'll go anywhere in the country. Wherever you send us, we'll go. Because that's the point you're at, right? And so we went and we go in, and she was very cold. And my husband said to her, we're here to save Tammy. We want to save Tammy. Because of course we'd already been to Sardi, right? Knowing that this was possible. And she said, well, I don't know that we're going to save Tammy.
She said that while you were in the room?
Yeah, to my husband.
Oh my God. The apathy displayed by the healthcare providers in Canada, just stunning. Carry on, please.
Right? So my husband's like, well, we are going to save Tammy. All we need is you to do 3 rounds of chemo. We have the pathology, we just need you to order the chemo, get it, and then we're going back to the US for CRS and HIPEC, which we know has good outcomes because we've read the studies. And she goes, well, I don't know who this Dr. Sardo is. And well, he's a world-renowned surgeon in the US. He takes patients from all over the world. And she said, well, I don't know if I can get your chemo. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get your chemo because the nurse practitioner in Sydney, where we live, is on vacation.
Like, do you not just want to shake her at that point? Like, wake up, like, look at the... I'm sorry, I keep swearing. Look at the reports. I get so passionate. Okay, go on.
Look at the reports and look at me. Right?
Yeah.
I need chemo today. If you give it to me today, I'll take it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, really? And we're like, we'll go anywhere. Like, we'll go anywhere. Just
obviously,
order the chemo. You have all the work is done for you. We know what the standard dosing is. So we go in the next day, and she said she'd see us to pull some fluid off right before we go because I was getting quite uncomfortable. They'd taken a 1.5 liters off during the laparoscopy off my belly of fluid. Right, she's just swishing around with chemo, cancer cells hitting everything, right? Spreading it.
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what happens, right? Is this there's this fluid leakage that has cancer cells in it, and it's just basically bathing the inside of your belly, and you're just growing cancer like
Oh,
exponentially.
wow.
And
Yes.
so we come back the next day. She goes, was trying to get some fluid off. She couldn't with the ultrasound. She said, "Oh, but I have some good news for you." Her whole attitude changed the next day. I don't know whether she went and looked up Dr. Sardi or looked up me or whatever the case may be. Her whole attitude changed. She actually touched me that day. She actually touched my shoulder and she said, I've got your chemo scheduled for Friday. So we were like, "Oh, thank goodness," because we were getting on a plane on Monday. If it
Yeah.
wasn't scheduled this week, that was a Tuesday. If it wasn't scheduled that week, we were prepared to get on a plane to go to Germany because they'd already reviewed our case and said, "We'll
Yes.
take you for the chemo, the CRS, HIPEC, everything," right?
Yep.
So they said, "We'll give you your chemo on Friday." First two rounds went awesome, no problem. Actually, I shouldn't say that, but it's a little detailed for this conversation because I did have a
Hmm.
problem with one of the agents. They had me on two agents. They were only going to give me one because I had a big itchy rash to one. And I called my oncologist friend in Alberta. She said, "Itchy rash ain't going to kill you, girl." She said, "Tell them to figure out another chemo for the second one because you need both, right? You
Yep.
need both. You're not
Yep.
taking one. Here's your options. Here are three other options." So sure enough, I had to give those options to my oncologist.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
she goes, "Okay, well, I'll order this one." I go in, I'm fine. I took the dosing of the two agents. The second time was fine. Third time I go in, my blood pressure and pulse are high. So they say, "We can't give you your chemo. Blood pressure's too high. You're going to have to go over to emerge." I'm like,
You're like, I've been
"Oh,
there before. They're
right."
useless. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I go into emerge and, the oncologist had called over and, they knew what I was going through. So they took me in fairly quickly. I have to admit, I went in fairly quickly and they monitored me. Every time I get up out of bed, my pulse rate and my blood pressure would go up. So Dr. Fraser comes in at the Sydney Memorial Hospital emergency room in Nova
Hmm.
Scotia
Hmm.
and says, "I can't believe we're treating blood pressure here."
Actually, did you
I'm like,
read
"Well, my oncologist sent me here because my blood pressure's high and they won't give me my chemo until, I get my blood pressure under control." Continued to monitor me. She wrote me a prescription for blood pressure medication, never did any additional testing. So I go back.
Hello?
Oh,
Wow.
wait, wait to hear what I had. I go back to the oncology unit and they get my oncologist on the phone and they say, "Well, did she have a CAT scan?" And I'm like, "No, she didn't have a CAT scan." They said, "She needs an emergent CAT scan, like right now." So they sent me over for an emergent CAT scan. I had a blood clot in my lung,
Oh my God.
a pulmonary
J-
embolism.
Jesus, Murphy. Wow. The wow. Okay, so I can see the news pieces that come from what's happening out on the East Coast in medicine in Canada because of course I read the news. And I hear these stories and Tammy, I've never talked to somebody who's actually been through it, but is this the standard of care? Like what's the problem?
That's standard of care apparently in this emerge by Dr. Fraser. And
Wow.
yeah, didn't do any looking, even though she knew I was on chemotherapy and had a type of cancer that I could develop blood clots from.
Yeah.
Like,
So
this
you
is
had a
pretty obvious information. I know this as a nurse practitioner. You don't know it as an
exactly.
emergency doc, then there's
Yeah.
something wrong,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
So you had a pee, you had to have it treated, and then
Yeah,
they could do the chemo.
yeah. But then I couldn't have my surgery after round three, right? I had
What
to wait till
happened?
round six because
Oh,
we had to wait for the PE to dissolve a little bit, right? Or else I could have died on the table.
sure. Sure, sure.
So Dr. Sardi calls me the next day on his personal cell phone after hours. "It's going to be okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're still going to do the CRS. We're still going to do the HIPEC. Just means you're going to get more chemo before we do it. There'll be less work for me," he said.
Oh, bless his heart.
Right?
Yeah.
Bless
Yep.
his heart. I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, that's good. That's good." So, I get my other three rounds chemo. I just flew through chemo. Didn't lose a pound because Dr. Sardi said I couldn't. My family, my husband, was there to support me, and he made me drink protein shakes every day. And when I didn't want to eat, he made me eat, and he made me
Mhm.
rest, and so I did all the right things while I was going through chemo, and I flew through chemo. It was great, really. It
Mhm.
was good.
Mhm. Good.
And a friend, I call her a friend now because she's out in British Columbia
Mhm.
province, and she had had this She had had the same procedure by the same doctor. So there's 3 of us here in Canada, 3 females. There's other people too, of course, but we're a group. She calls us the Sardi sisters. We text each other and things like that. And they were so excellent during my chemotherapy
So
and
helpful.
and procedure, right? They were always checking on me. They told me what to expect, and I could reach out to them at any time. This was my group, right? This was my tribe.
Yeah.
And Jeepers, so I couldn't get it till after 6, and that was fine. I responded very well to the chemo. Flew through the chemo, responded very well. She said, just imagine it as gold going into your veins, liquid gold. So I
Like
would
that.
meditate, prior to the
Yeah.
chemo and during the chemo, and I'm like, this is healing my body. You have to
Yes.
accept it as that in a very
S-
positive way, right? So I
So
think that was all
important.
part
Yes.
of why this happened.
Visualization. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Manifestation, visualization. So I
Absolutely. Yeah.
responded very well to the chemo. Unfortunately, at the same time that I had a CT scan for follow up for my pulmonary embolism, the radiologist read my CAT scan at Sydney, Nova Scotia, in the hospital and said, "Oh, but she's got this opacity in her lungs, this shattered glass opacity." I'm like, "Oh, jeepers! Don't tell me it's gone to my lungs, right?"
Yeah.
So we call up our medical consultant and I call up my good friend in Alberta. She goes, don't worry. She goes, who read this report? Right? Who was the doctor that read this report? Right? So we call the medical consultant. He's like, don't worry, Tammy. Dr. Raymond's like, don't worry. We're going to get somebody else to read the report.
Perfect.
So he gets a radiologist who teaches at McMaster as a consultant that reads the films.
Perfect.
Nothing on my lung.
Perfect. Fantastic. Great. Ah, you got
But
the
it
new
was
guy
read
that day.
by another radiologist that said I had spread to my lungs, and I didn't. I'm still here. Had it spread to my lungs, I'd be dead.
Yes.
I'm still
Yeah.
here. My lungs are still clear. There's nothing wrong with my lungs.
Thank God.
So again, just another stressor we had to go through.
Oh, and the trauma of all of this is just bananas. So like what does the bloating from ovarian cancer feel like versus you're bloating because you ate wheat and you shouldn't have? Like, is there what I'm wondering if there's some sort of wisdom we can extrapolate there that someone's listening to this because bloating is so common, as you know. What does it feel any different?
Well, no, I didn't know at the time, right, that it was any
Sure.
different. Yeah, because I was on a GLP-1 at the time too, right? So I thought, oh,
Mhm.
it's just from the GLP-1. It slowed everything down.
Yeah.
But I was bloated to the point where I looked 9 months pregnant and it would last, right? But it would go away. It would go away. That was so deceiving of it, right?
Wow.
Because some days I would get this bloating and my stomach would be really hard. And, now not having the bloating, I know. But there's no sort of objective way to measure bloating. And I was talking to a PhD student about this because she's doing research in ovarian cancer.
Hmm.
And I said, maybe that could be a way to differentiate whether a female needs an
Hmm.
ultrasound or
Yep.
is if we had an objective measure for bloating in females,
Yes.
right? Because women
Yes.
rarely ever express that they feel
Bloated.
bloated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Again, research into bloating. What is an objective measure for research? That for bloating, we don't have one. It's all subjective. Well, I
No.
feel bloated. What does that feel like? What does that look like? So there is no like sort of scale to assess bloating on. But if you're feeling bloating, that's one of the key symptoms of ovarian cancer. And
Okay.
increased urination is another one.
Okay, which I mean, so many women at midlife talk about that anyways, right? This is why I think these symptoms can just be, you know, disregarded as something else.
Yeah, yeah. So I have one final piece to my story before
Yes,
I get to
please.
surgery. So about 3 weeks before I'm scheduled for surgery, I'm done my chemo. I'm feeling good because I'm recovered after chemo. I mean, chemo takes it out of you for sure. And I'm feeling better. I'm eating and, I'm getting ready for travel. I'm making sure I'm at my best for the surgery because Dr. Sardi said it's like running several marathons, you know,
Wow.
day after day after day. You're going to wake up, you're going to feel terrible. And
Like
that you
somebody
saw the
rooted
surgical
around.
report. It's like
Oh,
6 surgeries in one. It's called the mother of all surgeries.
it's 11 pages long. Your report is 11 pages long.
1 page for
Bananas.
every hour, I guess.
Oh my God, right?
And so the hematologist and my surgeon in the US, who are experts in this, said you're going to need something called an IVC filter. So that's an intravascular filter, like it's like an umbrella to put in, they go down through here and they put it in to catch any clots that I might have further developed that we don't know about while I'm sitting on the table, right? Because I already have this clot.
Mm.
So I call up the nurse practitioner at the Sydney Oncology unit and I say, hey, my doc said I need this. Is this something you guys can put in before I go down? Right? Well, I'm going to talk to the hematologist here. She calls me back the next day and says, no, that's not best evidence. We don't do that here. The hematologist told her that. And I said, oh, really? I said, okay, well, they say I need it, right? So I'm going back for another CAT scan a week later, and I see the interventional radiologist in the CAT scan department because he had fixed my port. I had a little problem with it, and he fixed it, and he knew my story. And he said, hey, Tammy, how's it going? Have you been to Baltimore yet? Are you going for your surgery, right? And I said, well, the guys down there say I need an IVC filter. He goes, well, just tell them to send a referral to me. I'll put it in before you go.
Wow.
I said, well, they told me I couldn't get one here. He goes, yeah, I do them.
Oh, God.
And his face, the look on his face, he said to me, he said, Tammy, I don't know what to say. He goes, that's his exact words. He said, I don't know what to say. He looked totally defeated and looked at me and said, I don't know what to say.
The Canadians will be losing great practitioners because of all this shit show of not taking care of people, right? Because the practitioners like this interventional radiologist you're talking about, they're the ones that are going, I'm horrified to be a part of this system.
Absolutely.
Right then, listeners, it's spring, the days are getting longer, and if you're anything like me, you're feeling that little nudge to shake off the winter cobwebs. And just like we might be tackling the clutter at home and washing walls and doing what my grandmother would have called spring cleaning, it's a brilliant time to think about a bit of spring cleaning for our bodies too. Now, hands up, who of you has a whole shelf dedicated to various supplements? Me too. Well, these days, I've simplified things brilliantly with AG1. It's my little daily habit, and honestly, it helps me feel so much more energized as I embrace these brighter mornings. It's just one simple drink to support your digestion, your energy levels, and even our skin from the inside out. And because we're all busy bees, especially as we get out and about more in this lovely spring weather, the AG1 travel packs are an absolute godsend for staying consistent on those weekend getaways or busy work days. Now, when it comes to our health, we want something we can really trust, and that's why I choose AG1. With science-backed ingredients and real benefits I can feel, AG1 makes it easy to support overall wellness every day, and that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/Fiona Lovely to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/Fiona Lovely to start your spring on a healthier note. I'm delighted to have AG1 as a sponsor of the podcast. Remember, it's a foundational nutrition supplement, and I drink my AG1 every day to support my immune health. It's all part of feeling our best during this fabulous next chapter. So you get to your surgery. You get you get the umbrella put in
Yep,
Canada.
I do. They did it the day before. So they admitted me the day before and they do the umbrella procedure the day before in there. It's a 5-minute procedure. And it's expensive. I'm going to tell you, it's expensive in the US to get care, but it's top notch and it's available, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, and a lot of Canadians will say, oh, I can't believe you paid for that. Well, what was I going to do? Like, I'm going to die. Like,
Do you understand what the
I can't take
alternative
my
is?
purse in a hearse, right? I can't take my purse in a hearse. That's what I always say. Like, what's good is this money going to do if I'm dead? And where's my earning potential after I'm dead? I can't make any more money, right? Good lawyer always told me one time, he said, Tammy, you can always make more money. I said, you're right, but I can't if I'm dead.
If I'm dead,
So it's an investment. It's an investment. It's an investment in yourself. And women that women that I know, and I'm not going to classify this as all women, but women don't want to spend money on these things. People don't want to spend money on these things in Canada. And people in general don't want to spend money on their health. It's the
Mhm.
only thing you have. It is the most important investment you can make in your life,
Yeah.
right?
So the alternative would have been you sitting by and waiting for the system to kick in. I mean, at what point did you go, I don't think I'm getting the care I need and I need to look elsewhere? You kind of already said when it happened, but kind of go over that moment for us again, please. What happened in your mind? Like talk to me about what you were thinking
I'd say the minute that I got the ultrasound reports, the first one,
when you were in Edmonton.
when I was in Toronto,
Ah, oh, that right. Of course. Yes, 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 yes,
right?
yes.
Because I got the ultrasound in Toronto. And the minute I knew that I was sick, I was really sick.
Yes.
I'm thinking, I'm going to die because nobody here is going to help me. And I thought as a provider, I didn't even know about the HIPEC at that point, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know until we did some digging. I didn't even know it was an option for ovarian cancer because nobody talks about it here.
No. Okay. So there is a doctor in Alberta that will do that surgery, but is he the only one in the country?
Like apparently now, like my doctor didn't even know what CRS HIPEC was. She said, "Oh, like the old sugar baker." That's what they used to call it, and they do it for colon cancer here. But ovarian cancer is different. They say, "Oh, we don't have enough studies, Canadian studies. We don't have enough Canadian studies." So apparently, there's two centers that will do it, but all your information has to go to a board, and they have to approve it. Now, imagine your cancer's
Yeah.
growing at exponential rates.
Yeah.
This is not. This is not.
And you get put in the
I
queue. Yeah.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
queue up to a board
No.
and you know what I
No.
mean? Like, no, this has to happen immediately.
It does. Well, okay. It does not go beyond me, Tammy, that there is a lot of privilege in this conversation because
Yes.
and I want us to be sort of talk about that because you not only had the resources to be able to go down to or go to another country, whether it was the US or Germany, and pay for the surgery that can we say saved your life? Can I say that? Do you think that's fair?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't be here having this conversation had I not had that surgery. Because
Yeah.
if I'd have just had the CRS with my oncologist that she offered me here, right? We had a
Mhm.
40-minute conversation about it. And had she just offered me the CRS, she wouldn't have gotten all my cancer. It would have
Yeah.
went somewhere else and I would have died, probably a painful death of, either liver or hey, they offer MAID. It's the fifth leading cause of death in Canada right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a
I
reason
do.
for that.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Because as the statistic shows that you sent me, 24,000 Canadians a year die waiting for treatment and diagnosis and treatment. And
Yeah.
so, when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, what's comparable to the United States? So I thought, because we do have listeners from the US and Canada for this show. So this is
Yeah.
the statistic I looked up, Tammy. So apparently, 45,000 Americans die every year because they can't afford the health care that exists. So you were able to pay out of pocket to access this extraordinary health care in the United States, but Americans die because there are many, many, many that cannot afford to pay for the care from these. So it's like totally different problems, but still problems all the same. So let's come back to the like even you being able to hire a consultant to help you find the care you needed was something that not everybody can afford. So what do you tell a woman that's in front of you that maybe doesn't have those resources, but is concerned about either a family history of ovarian cancer, or she's one of women that have many women that have endometriosis and fibroids? In the research for this episode, I found that women who have endometriosis, I'm going to read my notes here, are 4 times more likely to develop ovarian cancer. Women with severe endometriosis, up to 10 times more likely, and women who have fibroids have a 65% higher risk of ovarian cancer than women that don't. Now, listen, most women I have talked to about their uterine health have one or the other or not both. So I
Yes.
know there's a lot. I just threw a lot at you, but let me hear your comments, please.
Well, for starters, I had both stage
Okay.
four, severe endometriosis. It took them a long time to diagnose it.
Of course.
And they treated it with Lupron. They put me into immediate menopause in my 30s. So the treatment's terrible for endometriosis. Nobody offered to resect my endometrial lesions, even though I was severely infiltrated with endometriosis. Never offered to me. right? And then I wanted a hysterectomy, had to wait, couldn't get it. And going back to those numbers, 45,000
Yes.
in a country with
Yeah.
almost 400 million
Mhm.
versus 24,000 in a country of 40 million.
Yeah.
Those statistics per ratio look very different
They
if we do
absolutely
the
do.
calculations, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh,
If you
yeah.
look at percentages,
Yeah.
way higher
Yes.
in Canada, even though,
Yes.
it's paid for
And we know
us, right?
now. We're just terribly under-resourced. Universal healthcare as an idea is a fantastic idea when it works, but we're terribly under-resourced. And as I was saying to you, you and I are both healthcare providers. You've worked in a hospital. I have not, thank goodness. But I mean, I'm only because I'm not cut out for that. I'm far too delicate to actually work in a hospital system. I think the hospital workers are some of the most amazing angels on this planet, but that's another conversation for another day. But can you imagine working under those conditions where you can
Oh,
see people dying and you have such apathy that you're silly enough to say, we don't think, what if we can't save Tammy or whatever? Well, you're in the freaking room. Where's the
yeah.
respect for humanity in that?
And yeah. And
Shocking.
there's lots of people waiting for cancer care. Well, you could do something right about that right today. You could do something, and they choose not
Yeah.
to. Right. And I'm sorry, going back to the original question, Fiona, there's so much locked up in that conversation, right?
I know. I know.
Yeah. What was the original question again?
Oh, it's okay. I don't know either. I had a ramble. So the truth is, what really what I wanted to know about was for the women who are maybe not as well resourced as you and I able to have this conversation about how you could privately pay for a surgery in the United States. Um, Many women, I'm going to guess most women, do not have that luxury. So, what do you tell a woman that's in front of you, one of your own patients that may be showing some of the same signs that you had, that has some of the same history that you had of endometriosis and fibroids, knowing that that increases the ovarian cancer risk? What are you saying to her about how she can advocate for herself and get the care she needs without the resources?
Yeah. One of the things I do for my clients is I'll order a CA 125.
Tell us about that.
That's a serum marker for ovarian cancer. If it's less than 30, the odds that you have ovarian cancer are very low. My CA 125 when I was diagnosed was over 2,900.
Oh, okay. So
Had
is
someone
this?
done a CA 125, had my doc done a CA
Yeah.
125
Yeah.
on me when I first went to see her,
Yes.
putting it on her differential list,
Yes. Yes.
knowing that I had fibroids, right?
Yes.
I think the story has to be, we have to educate providers. We have to lead them from behind almost,
100%. Now, I
right?
don't know
Is
if
it
you're like this, but I know for me, I learn best from my patients, but I have to keep my mind open
yeah.
and not. But if I'm the kind of doctor that's like, no, I know everything all the time, nobody knows any better than me, then you don't get the opportunity to learn. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, women have a hard time getting their hormones tested here. But in the US, right, if you have the option, CA 125 is a fairly inexpensive blood test that you could have done,
Why is it not offered to women when we turn 40? Just as a matter of course. Shouldn't it be routine
right?
blood work?
I think it should be. And I don't know why it isn't, but they say there's limited sensitivity and specificity, but I'd have to look at the actual numbers. But I don't know why we can't. Why, it's common sense, like a PSA, right?
Yeah, I was
Prostate
just gonna
specific
say,
antigen.
what's the boner equivalent?
The boner equivalent is the prostate
Please.
specific antigen, the PSA. And now I'm going to go after this conversation and look at the variance between sensitivity and
Yeah.
specificity of a CA 125 and
See if it's
PSA.
similar.
And if I
Yeah.
find there's no difference, holy, you better believe I'm going on a tangent.
Oh my God, Tammy. I didn't think we'd be laughing as much as we have been today, but it's true. The truth is, and and this was very much what our last conversation was like, and many of the conversations I have on the show when I talk to other female healthcare experts, is that we've been in the trenches for so long, we see how absurd the whole thing is. Just yesterday, I had a married couple in, they come in together for their chiropractic care. she had been through this whole thing trying to get hormones prescribed. She ended up finding somebody finally, and then she found me after that. So otherwise, I would have sent her to my nurse practitioner. However, it took her a long time to get the hormones she needed. She said to me yesterday at the table, she said, I didn't know I could feel this good. She's in her 60s. She said, I didn't know
I
I could
know.
feel this good, right? And had so much pain for so long. So her husband says to me, can I pick your brain about something? So of course you can. So it's his turn. He's on the table and he says to me, I feel like I'm having a harder time keeping muscle. What did you say to me? Because at some point I must have talked to him about
Yeah.
sarcopenia. And I said, what did you say to me about that? And I told him, I said, well, you should have your doctor test for testosterone and prescribe it. And his wife said, well, doesn't he have to go through the whole process that I had to go through? I'm like, oh no, because we're talking about boners now. So boners are important. So medicine, if you've got a uterus, not so important after you can no longer put a baby in it. But when there's boners involved, it's open doors, open access. And heaven forbid, if all those cancerous cells were on a testicle, you would have
Oh,
been handled completely different.
yeah, absolutely right. And speaking about, variances between, boners and
Yep.
babies, let's say, for a be a
Yep.
B word. Women are able to have babies, men can have boners.
Yep.
Is that we have an estradiol shortage.
Yeah, we do.
I've
Yeah.
never seen a Viagra shortage,
Never. Nope. In fact, I may have used that exact example with this couple yesterday because she was
right?
having some difficulties with her patch. And I said, well, there's something like 15 manufacturers for Viagra and the other boner pills, various
There you go.
ones. Yep. And there's only 2 or 3 for the estrogen patch. So even though women are 51% of the population. Now, anyone listening to this show knows that I'm going to be talking about female issues. And I think you have brought us the most extraordinary and stunning example of how a woman who is able to advocate for herself, that's you, throughout your care, you still slip through the cracks. So how does a woman that knows nothing about any of these things able to even get close to taking care of herself and advocating for herself the way you were able to? I mean, what should we be watching for, Tammy?
I'm going to say one, never give control of your hormone health to
Mhm.
someone else, because I did it many, many times. With polycystic ovarian syndrome, with endometriosis, with my fibroids, I was kept waiting and waiting and waiting because I continually gave up control of my hormone health to another person.
You
Don't
probably
do
did.
it,
Don't do it.
right?
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Because women are doing it all the time.
Of
We're
course.
accepting, no, we're accepting gaslighting, we're accepting lies from the medical system.
Mhm.
And we need to look at the truth. We need to look more at the truth. And, with AI, like some of my
Mhm.
patients use AI now, right? Patients are smart, like really
Mhm.
smart,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
You just got
Patients
to
are you
keep.
and me too.
Yeah, I know. We're patients. We're really smart. You never know who's going to walk in your office, right? And
Absolutely.
I never tell people what I do or who I am when I enter, because I want to experience it as, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
Jane does, right?
Yep.
Because I'm
Yep.
into system reform, and
Yep.
a few times I pulled my card with my friends, and even that didn't work. So having friends in medicine doesn't work either. But don't give up the control of your hormone health. Be
Yeah.
informed, be
Yeah.
engaged. If you're not happy with the first opinion, get a second one.
Get a second one, even in the universal healthcare system, which is
That's right.
discouraged. And it can be hard
That's
to
right.
do. You can wait months or years, even. Okay.
And if you can, and I know this is privilege, if you can, pay for it, because your health is your number one investment. You'd buy a
And
car, you'd buy a
yes,
house, you
yes.
can buy your health if you have to. So my husband and I, when people say, "Oh, I can't believe you paid that," like we paid quite a substantial amount. Our
Mhm.
retirement funds are depleted. I have to work now for some time later. But and the thing
But you
is that
can. But you
I
can.
can, I
Yeah.
can,
Because you're alive.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And my whole research because I teach at a university, right? In addition to my hormone practice, my whole research portfolio is changing. I'm going to focus on women's health
Sure.
and particularly the CRS HIPEC information in Canada so women can have
Please
equitable
do.
access, right? Yes, I'm
Yes.
just writing about it this morning for a
Perfect.
grant. Um, is that, my husband will say to them, well, do you have a house? Do you have a car? Like he said, we would have sold our car, we would have sold our house, remortgaged our house, whatever it took to do it. I think so often we think there's no value in healthcare because either it's paid for by an insurance, Medicaid,
Yeah.
Medicare, an insurance
Yeah.
company, an HMO is managed, right? Is that there's no value. We don't see a value in it. But my
Yeah.
story tells about the value
It does
of
never.
paying for what you need when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no matter what you have to do.
Yes. Yes. We have I love what you've just said. I mean, the importance of health is our number one resource. There's the Chinese proverb about man spends his life losing his health, making his wealth, but loses his and then spends his money trying to regain his health. This whole I really should look it up because it's far more eloquent than I just put out there. But it's just
Right?
one of those things like, oh my God, it's so powerful what you just said. If you have a house, do the thing, keep your health if you're still alive. So Tammy, tell us, what's the prognosis now that you've had the HIPEC surgery?
Some women are living like 15, 20 years.
And if you hadn't have had it,
I think the 5-year survival rate with the extent that I had is maybe 1 out of 3.
wow. Yeah. Your husband's a sage man. He absolutely sell your house, sell your car. It's keep your health at all costs. And if you have a sense that something is going on, because Tammy knew she was sick, she told her doctor, I am sick. And it
Yeah.
didn't change anything, right? There wasn't more testing. There wasn't more looking at labs. There wasn't a quicker referral situation, right? The doctor can always say, go right now to emergency. I'll let them know you're on the way and we'll start
Yes.
this right away. With a fast growing cancer, that may be warranted. That can always happen here in our system, but that didn't happen. And there were so many places where you were left having to make these decisions. And again, um, I can't help but wonder if you haven't been through this terrifying, awful thing so that you can be part of the change that happens for women in Canada. Has that occurred to you?
Oh, multiple times, right?
Yeah.
Because in my hormone practice, I change women's lives, on a regular basis, right? I'm always
Yeah.
so happy to do that. And now I think I've been set on a very unique path. My work wasn't done here. There's a reason that this all transpired. I'm very true believer in that. And it was my intuition finally that I had sort of not been listening to
Mhm.
for a long
Mhm.
time, like just
Mhm.
sort of excusing my symptoms away. Don't excuse your symptoms away. Follow your
Mhm.
intuition. If you think you're unwell, get checked, because if you don't take care of yourself, there'll be no option to take care of the other people in your life. Because as women, we always take that on. We're always caring for other people. We're always, putting everybody else first.
Mhm.
We need to put ourselves first, especially as we age. We need to be our own strong advocates. And if you sense something's wrong, go get
Yeah.
checked.
Yes. You would
Okay.
if it was a child and if it was one of your children and you had an instinct about them, you would follow that right down to the last letter. But as women, we tend to excuse it. So I love that advice you've given us really so many things to think about today, Tammy. And I know that this conversation hopefully will save a woman's life, maybe many women's lives. Maybe it's not ovarian cancer. You said type 3C, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, because it didn't travel anywhere distance, but it was everywhere else in my belly, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
thing with ovarian. If you don't catch it early, it spreads very quickly to
And
the
there's no
peritoneum and the omentum.
testing for early. There's a couple of things
That's
you can
right.
do. You said the
That's right.
ultrasound and the
CA
CA
125.
125. Yes. Okay. So if you have a cancer history, if you have funky things going on in your belly and or you have the sense that something is off, ask your doctor by name, the CA 125. Ask for a pelvic ultrasound. I know that kind of thing would fly here in Alberta. I just wonder is this a provincial thing too? Like, is there something terribly broken about some of the other jurisdictions? And I don't know. Again, Alberta's kind of an outlier because we have that two-tier system here in Alberta where people
Yeah.
can pay for their own MRI or CT. In fact, I order them fairly regularly and people can have them within 24 hours. So, of course, I'm
Mhm.
ordering them for musculoskeletal things or brain related things, but for cancer, absolutely, it's an option here. So, if you're a woman that's somewhere in Canada waiting for testing, know that you can come to Alberta and pay out of pocket for that. I do believe you can. If you can't self-refer for a private MRI or CT, it costs you about $1,000 for a spine. So just to give you an idea, a section of the spine, like neck or brain, one or the other, or lumbar spine, it costs you, I think, about $800 for a lumbar spine, but depends on what you're looking at, multiple areas, just in case you're wanting ballpark on that. You can go to a walk-in clinic in Alberta or your own physician in whatever province you're traveling from. You can let them know that what you're doing is to travel to Alberta to get that. I can't believe we live in that's the era we're living in now, Tammy, but here we are. So I just want to say I'm so happy to see you so hale and hearty. Of course, we have a friend in common who's been keeping me abreast of what's been going on in your life since the last time we talked. And I had no idea what to expect when I saw you today, and you look great and you're so spirited. Thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Fiona. It's been a great experience to sit down and sort of just, talk to you about it and to be able to inform other women because I know I've already influenced lives of other women, whether it be, telling them about the CRS HIPEC or referring other women with different conditions, even male patients with different conditions to the medical consultancy firm in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
they don't even know these things exist for them.
No, I know. Just say the name of that consultancy firm, please. So people,
RCM,
okay, so
RCM
people can Google it.
Consultants in Toronto.
Ours.
Yeah, they
Okay.
could Google it. Yeah, it's
Fantastic.
particularly the Canadian patients who aren't getting anywhere with the system.
Yeah.
They'll take it on. They take complex cases and they respond immediately.
Thank God there's somebody that's done that. Okay. Where can people find out more about you, Tammy O'Rourke?
Oh, Tammy Talks Hormones on Instagram. And
Yay!
I guess there's lots of great content even since I've been back. I was pretty inactive for a while, but Tammy Talks Hormones, all one word. And we now have a consultant. We now have a social media firm doing some of that for us. So some great videos on there about hormones. Nothing on
Lovely.
ovarian cancer yet.
Yet. Yeah.
And then Happy Hormones Canada. So www.happyhormonescanada.ca. That's our
Yep.
website.
Okay.
And so you can find more about me on there. And now, it's 2024. We thought we'd have the book out in 2024, but not. No, but
Not yet.
it's made its way to a lot of progress. I'm looking at the actual index for the book
Nice.
in front of me, and it's going to be quite exciting because it's not about menopause, not about perimenopause. Those are in the book, but it's about hormone health for a variety of ages of women. That's what I'll
I
say
love
for
it.
now.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
So
it.
it's the journey. It's the hormone journey. Starting when you're on the pill or you have PCOS or you're
Mhm.
pregnant or you're postpartum. Like this is a journey for women. It doesn't start or end with menopause, right? And there's a lot of information about menopause, but I think we need to broaden our horizon to say, you know what, estrogen and progesterone make a woman different. We need to pay attention.
Oh, yeah. And I think anyone who's been lost hormones at menopause or perimenopause and then started taking HRT again, and all of a sudden you feel that the same patient I was just talking about, she told me yesterday she feels human again. So,
Yeah.
how are we leaving women without that? Anyways, next time we talk, we'll have so many new things to talk
Oh,
about.
yes, we will for sure. I'll be talking about the hormone journey next
Yeah,
time.
I hope so. I would love to have you back about the book when it's time for the book to be released. So keep me on the list. Let me know when you've got a date, and we'll have you back on the show. Tammy, Thank you again so much for coming and dispensing this wisdom. It's so deep and it's life-saving, not just for you. Thank God you could advocate for yourself, but for so many others. Now, I asked you this question the last time you were here, but I'm real curious to hear this now. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, again, don't give up control over your hormone health to someone else, right? Had I known what I know now, I would have advocated better for that endometriosis to be removed. You know what I mean? Like I would have gotten
Yeah.
the resection surgery for the stage 4 endometriosis. It didn't even occur to me that it would increase my risk for ovarian cancer. And if my younger self would have said, no, we're staying in Alberta until I get this hysterectomy, because not all jurisdictions are equal in terms of access for care, I would have had the hysterectomy in
Yes.
Alberta,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Amen. I mean, hindsight, right?
oh, it's
Oh,
2020.
yeah. Wow. No
But
kidding.
like I said at the beginning when we first got on, and it wasn't in the recording, but get ready for the best comeback ever, Fiona. This is
Oh,
it.
woo! Yes, baby.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I know
Tammy.
so much more now. Woo.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You thought you were wise before, but now this is a whole other. Here's something I should have asked you much earlier. How old were you when all of this went down?
Well, I'm 56 now, so I was 54.
Yes. So if anyone's listening and cannot see the video of Tammy and I talking, know that Tammy is probably much younger than you're thinking she is. And that's part of what we also think is that if we're going to have a cancer, it's going to show up much later. But
Anywhere,
indeed,
ovarian cancer can show up in 30s.
wow, there's so much more we need to know. Get on it, Tammy. My God. Let me know
All
how I can
right.
help.
I'm working as hard as I can. I'll keep you updated, Fiona.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Oh, you too, Fiona. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
The information and other content provided in this show, or in any linked materials, is not intended and should not be construed as medical advice, nor is the information a substitute for professional medical expertise or treatment. We are doctors, but we aren't your doctor. Seek your doctor's opinion. If you or any other person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical treatment. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have heard in this podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The opinions and views expressed on this page and in this show have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, health practice, or other institution. Thank you.